Good morning. Day 118. It's taken a long time for me these days, the last couple days anyway, to get going in the morning. Whereas when I was in the Sierras, it was quite efficient. I had a routine down. I could get going from sort of the first stirring to pack on the back, hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15. It was at least an hour longer than that today. And I was reflecting on that when it's sub-freezing and you're wet. There's a lot of wet stuff anyway. My body wasn't wet, but changes the dynamics of a lot of things. So I ate breakfast in my sleeping bag because it was too cold. It was cold. There was frost on the outside of my sleeping bag this morning, down by my foot where it was touching the tent. Anyway, complicates everything. The toe socks are frozen, and when I took them off last night, they were inverted. So you have to work each individual toe to get it the right way, and then work them onto your feet, which of course, when the socks are frozen, the feet don't like. It took at least 10 minutes to get my feet in my trail runners. They're frozen solid. By the way, that's a special feeling to work your feet in the morning into frozen footwear. Every little wrinkle, every little fold is unforgiving. So I was thinking about that and, what I can do to change, because it was so late once I got going today. That affects the mileage that you can do in a day. And with the shorter and shorter days, fewer and fewer miles, unless you just hike by headlamp at night. I was thinking about a couple other things here. One was a conversation I had with Zorro, my hiking partner from 4 years ago on the Appalachian Trail. Conditions not terribly unlike what I'm experiencing right now: wet, cold, freezing, sub-freezing temperatures. And he was saying something, and the context was, am I going to finish the AT, finish the PCT that year, do the dual through hike, something. Don't even remember. But he said, well, you like hiking so much. And I remember thinking to myself, do I? Really? Do I really love hiking that much? I don't know. He seemed to have much more confidence in me than I did. Almost nobody out here. I saw my first footprints in 2 days. Yesterday, the only person I saw was at one of the road crossings. Truck was going by and I waved at the driver. I do understand from the Far Out Guide, Two Braids, whom I know from Washington, was like a week ahead of me in the Sierras from the trail registers, is now up here, about a day ahead of me. And Tumbleweed, I think, is also about a day ahead of me. I don't know if they know each other. There are a few people around. But I was thinking, maybe somebody will find my Garmin. And my Garmin. So then I started thinking about my Garmin. And the little scratch on the antenna. And the ferrule, I've written ferrule in my longhand script on it to distinguish, when you have a half a dozen different Garmins recharging at a bank there at one of the hiker hangouts. You don't want somebody inadvertently grabbing your Garmin and walking off with it. And so I started thinking about my Garmin, and I couldn't but help think of the scene in the Tom Hanks movie. I think it's like Castaway or something, where he's marooned. And one of the few speaking lines he has during the middle third of the whole movie is talking to his volleyball. And when his volleyball drifts away on the raft and he can't save it, and, I'm sorry, Wilson, I'm sorry. So I'm sorry, Garmin. I'm sorry, InReach. I'm not that sorry, but it gave me a belly laugh this morning. But what to do? Do I hope that someone's going to find it in the melting snow over the next few days? Well, it's probably just sitting right next to the trail somewhere. They would have to see my notice in the Far Out guide. If they're not a thru hiker, they probably wouldn't have that. I don't know if you can contact. I'm sure you can contact Garmin and give them the IMEI, and they'll be able to contact me. But I kind of can't trust on that. I think tomorrow night I'm going to be at Callahan's Resort. It'll be a day later than I had planned on, just due to the monkeying around yesterday. And I'd have to go all the way to Medford to REI under the assumption that they have them in stock. And then I think you need like a desktop or a laptop in order to properly program the account. So that's going to be another day. And then what do? Do I book a room at Callahan's and for 2 nights? I don't know, maybe I will. Never been there. Don't know what it's like. Ooh, interesting paw prints. This looks like coyote. Yesterday, it was really interesting. There was a coyote, had to have been yesterday morning after it had stopped snowing, and it probably was coming down the trail towards me for about a mile. And right when I saw the prints, I noticed that it had sort of dashed off the trail. And when I investigated, there were what appeared to be squirrel prints and a little sort of flurry of prints together with a couple orangish dots in the snow. So it appeared that morning right there, a coyote caught a squirrel and ate it whole. There's nothing left but the couple dots from the blood. Interesting. Okay. Going through the forest here. It's certainly pleasant. There's very little drama in this section of Oregon. Through the forest, not much up and down. I can tell by the cow pies and from a cow that I saw right ahead of me. The cattle are ranged here through this part of Oregon. So you have to be careful with the water sources. And the other thing is the water sources here. During prime hiker season, it probably wouldn't be that bad because there are a few like campgrounds that have faucets. Well, they're all turned off this time of year. The springs are running dry either completely or are just like stagnant. So water is sort of become a major issue. So water and dealing with the ice at night. Okay, that's enough rambling for 10 minutes. Here's an old tree. I don't know what they had to do to saw this down, like in different pieces. I was just wondering how old this thing is. The rings are much bigger at the start, but then they get quite faint. And I think it was between, just to give you an idea, I came up here and I counted. I think it was between this crack and this crack. I think I counted 22 rings. So, you know, hundreds of years old. Yeah. I'm sure one of my viewers would know sort of what that is. You can see from the bark, this is sort of twisted a little bit all the way around. But yeah, look at that layer of bark underneath that. Phew. Wow, crazy. Okay, somebody can tell me what species this is. I would appreciate it. Well, now this is interesting. So you see this, another one of these giant trees. This one looks even bigger than the one that I saw the cross section on. You know, I mean, this has obviously been dead. There's no trail here. There's no like side trail here around this. I think this must have just fallen just recently. Crazy. Well, I'm going to have to sort of bushwhack around it, I guess. Wow. I wonder what it sounded like when it fell, if no one was here to listen to it. This is my last water for a while. I'm going to have to treat it coming out of a lake, Little Hyatt Lake. Well, just at the outlet to Little Hyatt Lake, I've decided I needed to go full yard sale. Spread out all my stuff, my tent, pack, clothes, air out my feet, socks, rearrange all my stuff that was sort of haphazard thrown in there, the food bags. Still have this scab on top of my head. It's going to be there for another week or two, I can tell. Don't run into trees. Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is it's sort of worth a midday 45-minute break, something like that. I can tell, you know, like when I camp tonight, it's just going to be like a regular camp. It's not just going to be, everything's just a mess and wet and cold. And yeah, it's a nice day. Beautiful sky, no clouds. Well, this looks like a great view. Let's see. Maybe a little bit under the branches here. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. So that must be looking west. Yeah. A little bit through the trees there. Yeah. Very nice. Haven't had too many views in the last few dozen miles, maybe.